Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene, and today we're going to Texas. I'll be turning the floor over today to the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. Now, I'm sure all of you know by now. If you don't, you should. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you right now that Governor Abbott recently signed the legislation that redistricts the congressional districts of Texas. There are predictions that doing this will create as many, possibly 5 additional Republican seats, which matters a lot because we have a very closely divided House of Representatives and then a corresponding, of course, loss of Democrat seats. So there's a lot of talk about this, a lot of commentary on this, and a lot of what I guess one could call fake news about this. So you're going to hear from Greg Abbott. He's going to explain exactly the reason for redistricting in the middle of a decade. Usually the states wait for each census every 10 years, and then they see what the population is and how many seats they'll have, and then they will assign districts then. So it's not unheard of, as I understand, but it's not usual business to redistrict in the middle of a decade. So there's always the spin, especially in the mainstream media, has been, well, he just wants to create more Republican seats, and well, basically, he just wants to do what Democrats have been doing. They're threatening to retaliate in the blue states, and they're having a problem because they've already gerrymandered. I mean, Trump got 31% of the vote in Massachusetts, and believe it or not, there is not one Republican congressional district, Republican majority congressional district in all of Massachusetts. And there are other states that have similar situations. An amount of Republican seats that's far below what their vote share would indicate they should have. Now, and I haven't gone state by state, so it's possible that there are some Republican states that have done the same thing, but it's something that both states are doing. Anyways, why is Abbott doing it? And it's more than just, it's almost as if when you hear Abbott, that actually getting the additional Republican districts is just icing on the cake. Basically, it's reflecting Texas, that Texas has changed a lot. Well, you know what? Let me turn it over. I'll turn it over to Greg Abbott. He explains it. I'm going to have a comment afterwards on something that is especially important to me, one of the things that he brings up. But first of all, I just have to explain, in case, for those of you who may not be familiar with the term, he's going to mention something called coalition districts. And you may be wondering, you may not know what a coalition district is. And so what it is that states have created majority minority districts, a district where, well, let's say where black people would be the majority, and we'll say Hispanics would be the majority. The logic apparently being, as I will comment after Abbott speaks, that all black people will vote the same way, all Hispanics vote the same way. So anyways, so these things, and they are unconstitutional. I believe there's a Supreme Court case coming up on this, that you can, as you'll hear from Abbott, you can carve up your districts to favor one political party over another, but you can't do it, you can't discriminate on the basis of race. Well, it doesn't matter on which race we're talking about. So a coalition district is, say, if you're trying to create these kind of districts and you don't have enough, say, black people in one district or enough Hispanics in a single area to create a black majority district or a Hispanic majority district, but you have, say, a very large black population and concentrated in one area up here in the state, and a similar Hispanic community down here. So what you do, you take the one and the other, and you'll create a narrow strip of land to create a majority minority district, based, I guess, on the logic or on the reasoning that not only do all black people vote one way and all Hispanic vote one way, but black people and Hispanic people all vote the same way. So you put the two together, and that's what you get. Now, now that you know what that is, let me just turn the floor over to Greg Abbott. It's a press conference. He gets a question on this, and then he explains the reasoning. So here is Greg Abbott.
What gave rise to this in the first place was the Federal Court of Appeals ruling last year that said that coalition districts are not required. When the maps were drawn in 2021, they included coalition districts. And so we weren't required to adhere to that anymore. What is allowed by the United States Supreme Court is drawing maps for political reasons. And these were drawn for political reasons to ensure that Republicans would have greater representation in Congress. However, they were drawn for political reasons in ways that happen to coincide with what is happening in the state of Texas. What was happening that the Democrats refuse to acknowledge is the fact that Hispanics in Texas are voting Republican. And they are running away from the Democrat Party because the Democrats are for open border policies, therefore men and women's sports, therefore abandoning any pretense of public safety. They are against law enforcement. And so Hispanics as well as the African Americans as well as all Texans, they are supporting the policies that the Republican Party stands for. They're fleeing the policies the Democrats stand for. And so what we did, we ensured that the voters in these 5 new congressional districts would not be trapped by members of Congress who are hostile to their values and to their vote.
You just heard from Abbott himself. Those are all the reasons. I could add one more that he didn't mention. It's my understanding that Texas got a warning letter from the Department of Justice that there are some in Texas, one or more of these majority-minority districts, which, as I just explained before Abbott spoke, unconstitutional because you can, as Abbott said, create to favor one political party as long as, this is the idea of gerrymander. People don't know it. That term gets thrown around a lot. It does not mean necessarily creating districts that favor one party over the other. It's when, as I explained with coalition districts, when you have a curly, that's where it came from, in 1812 from it was a local race, state congressional district or state senate district. A Democrat politician, Eldridge Gerry, and they created a district for him that started. It looked like a salamander on a map. If you look, you can see the same thing. You can look on a Illinois map of one of these very heavily gerrymandered areas, and you can see something similar, but it was so convoluted it looked like a salamander. So somebody, political cartoonist, whatever, it's called it a gerrymander, gerry-mander, and so that's where the term comes from. So now you know. But the point I want, so there was a warning letter that from the Department of Justice, as I understand. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. That's my recollection, saying that Texas had to redistrict because there were some districts that did not one or more that did not pass constitutional muster. But the point I really want to get to, this is the point that is especially important to me, is when he said that, well, first of all, they've had this enormous influx of people fleeing California and other blue states moving to Texas. And I'm experiencing the same thing where I am in Texas. Actually, I'm an example of that. I lived in New York for 40 years. I moved to Tennessee. I don't have all the problems anymore. I don't have to worry about this Mamdani, a socialist mayor. I mean, it bothers me a lot because I still have a love for New York, but it's not my problem anymore. Whatever he's going to do, my tax dollars are not, at least city tax dollars, not going to pay for it, or state tax dollars. And in fact, where I live now in Tennessee, there is no state income tax. So as an example of a well-run state compared to a badly run state such as New York. But so you've had this enormous population. So it's not fair to wait another 5 years for the next census, because people are coming in. And as Abbott said, this is the main point I want to make, is that increasingly, and especially Hispanics, as Abbott said, are increasingly voting Republican. But you also saw Trump in the last election picked up black votes too. But why should they be stuck if you're a black, a black Republican? Why should you be, because of your color of your skin, be forced to be stuck into a black area where they vote Democrat? So your will never be will never have any effect. You might as well just not even show up to vote. And the same thing if you're Hispanic. And what matters to me is I'm Jewish, as you may have heard or I've mentioned in the past, and I talk about Israel a lot. I am Jewish. Most Jews vote Democrat, and I vote Republican. I am a conservative, and I really resent this idea that I would have to be in a majority Jewish district where that would never elect a Republican to anything. And I can tell you right now, though I am a Jew, I would rather be the only Jew in a Christian district that votes Republican than be one of a 100% Jewish population in a district that votes Democrat, because that is not first of all, this is America. And religion and race shouldn't matter, and you should not be voting on account of your race. The same thing. I don't like this idea. If you have if Bernie Sanders runs, too late now, and he had two chances, and the whole Democrat says a lot about the Democrats. They ganged up on him, but because I'm Jewish, I'm supposed to vote for, Sanders is Jewish, I'm supposed to vote for Sanders. And no, I will not vote for him. I don't care that his religion is the same as mine. And you're seeing that with black voters who are voting Republican, and Hispanic voters especially are voting Republican. And that's one of the reasons that they are Republican, or Hispanic Republican or black Republican. That's why they are leaving the Democrats, because they believe the same as I do, that race should never, ever, under any circumstances, be a factor. I would even go so far as to say if a black person attacks a white person, let's say that's it's funny. If a white person attacks a black person, that's a hate crime. But if it's the other way around, somehow by miracle, it's not a hate crime. But the thing is, it's an assault is an assault. If somebody if I hit you, I stick a knife in you, it doesn't matter why I did it. It's, when I kill you, murder is murder. And what has that got to do with it? That's one of the reasons I'm a Republican, is I just want to take race out of politics, just want to take it out. And that's it. And if you look at this could be a whole other vlog. Ketanji Jackson Brown, Sotomayor is no longer the dumbest Supreme Court justice, but that's a perfect example of race-based hiring, where Biden said, I mean, whatever you think of her, but her opinions are, she issues her opinions now, even when she's on the same side as her liberal colleagues. They don't sign on to her opinions. They're so out there. But that's another, for another day. But you had Biden saying from the outset, when this opening came up, that on the Supreme Court, that he said, I would only nominate a black woman. So if he said I'm only going to nominate a Democrat woman, that's understandable, or somebody with a liberal, or somebody, especially a liberal philosophy. That that's fine. I mean, I don't like it, but as far as the Constitution, that's fine. And as far as fairness, that's fine. But to say at the very beginning, I am only going to nominate a black woman, well, that's what you got with Ketanji Jackson Brown. But she's not. She is just, I mean, don't get me started. She is not a good. I've read some of when there's a decision announced, an important Supreme Court decision. They publish excerpts from the opinion, and I've never seen one of hers that mentions the Constitution or the law, except in a disparaging way, where she calls it legalese or some, or says that the law is an excuse for that the majority is using the law as an excuse not to do the right thing, not to. And actually, that harkens back. I guess I'm off on a tangent here. I'll try to end this soon, but that reminds me of Thurgood Marshall, who I guess was the harbinger or the prototype for this kind of reasoning, because he was asked about the part that the Constitution plays in his jurisprudence, in his reasoning, his opinions, and he said, I don't remember exactly. Well, one thing he said was that the Constitution was just designed to protect the property rights of white people. So that's his opinion of the Constitution, that he takes an oath to uphold. But the really distressing, or equally distressing, if not more, part is that he also said, I might be paraphrasing slightly, but this is basically what he said: I just do what's right and wait for the law to catch up. That's it. He ignores the law, he said he would ignore the law, ignore the Constitution, just do what he thinks is right. And just to be fair, Stephen Breyer, who is the justice that, or was a justice that Ketanji Brown replaced, and he said, I read his book. He had a book called On Liberty that explains his reasoning. And he says, I don't pay attention to the words of the Constitution. I take a general belief that the purpose of the Constitution is to encourage the maximum number of people to participate in the government, in voting, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what you're seeing. You see that a lot. I guess this tangent is going to go on for a little bit longer, that because that is the reason, except to her credit, one of the justices, Kagan, that Kagan does look at the Constitution, but the other ones, when you read excerpts in the news, their dissents, especially in their opinions, it's always they talk about the effect of the decision, of who will be hurt, depending on how the decision goes, not whether it's constitutional or not. I can't recall ever reading anything from Sotomayor that talks about the law or the Constitution. It just talks about if we don't have strict gun control law, if we allow people to carry concealed weapons, blah blah blah, people will be hurt and public safety will be. That's not the point. We have a Second Amendment, and as well, I've gone on too long. Okay, I'm going to stop now. That's it. Well, that's why it's called Gene Rants. I start out calm and then I start ranting. So that's it. That's your rant for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to rant or even just comment calmly, then there's a comment section below the video. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.